but before long, Subihi Ahmed will step in to challenge the status quo. A true innovator, Subihi draws out new and different ideas and perspectives of the matter at hand, thereby putting fresh insight into the proceedings. Subihi's avid imagination and observation skills provide the team with the most unconventional view on the subject and keep it from trudging down the tried and tested path. However, there are times when her ideas seem too out of the earth, times when her solutions might come across as much too radical. That is when Tanisha Buck, the sculptor, steps in. Always the action-oriented one, Tanisha brings plans to fruition by balancing the forces created by the crusader and the innovator and getting things done. Her strength lies in her ability to utilize the information and tools available to accomplish tasks the current situation presents and to spur the entire team into action. With her sense of urgency, the team can be sure of completing its work on time with tangible results, reaching a safe landing. The synergism of these four members creates the identity of Team Verve, venturing relentlessly towards a vision of excellence.
Now let's introduce the premise of our presentation. We're here to discuss the case dealing with the multinational telecom company DIS, which has lately been plagued with several internal issues as well as intense competition. We will be presenting an analysis of the core issues facing DIS and recommending a strategic direction to resolve these. Our presentation will begin with SWOT and move on to financial and strategic analysis, followed by prioritization of issues and recommendations. Now, starting off, SWOT analysis reveals several fundamental strengths, including the company's established brand image and extensive network, superior service quality and affordability, proficient human resource, but most importantly, DIS's advanced IT infrastructure with technology upgrades to 3G standards and the offer of various handsets with exclusive offer to a variety of handsets stand out as key strengths. Now, weaknesses for DIS are limited, but a couple of issues are the administrative and ethical challenges in implementing performance-related pay and the limited success of differentiation efforts in Europe. Now, moving on to opportunities, there is vast potential to tap the African and Asian markets, which recorded growths of 49% and 27% over 2002 to 2007. Furthermore, revenue from data transmission, in which DIS has significant strength, is forecasted to increase fourfold in Africa by 2013. Lastly, the impending threats are the encroaching threat of fraudulent activities, which research shows is especially dominant in Africa, and the saturation of the European market, as evidenced by only 2.2% growth in revenue in 2008, as opposed to 9.6% over the previous 5 years. Now, moving on to financial analysis. DIS's financial statements reveal overall strength in key financial indicators. Profits were up by 21%, and net profit margin was healthy at 11%. Return on assets, which was 2.7%, was also moderately good. But DIS's risk position seems to be affected by the investment in YE, as the debt-to-equity ratio rose to 0.37. The current ratio also worsened to 0.94. But since this is still reasonably close to 1, liquidity position seems satisfactory. Now, assessing DIS's 5-year plan, the 24 to 29% revenue growth projected for Asia seems to be quite attainable, and the same holds true for the 14% projected growth in Africa. But given the saturation of the European market, the 10 to 13% projected revenue growth in Europe seems to be over-optimistic, as consumers may not be willing to pay a premium for their network services. Thank you. Now, Tanisha will take over.
We will now explore future strategic directions for DIS based on Ansof's matrix. First, we turn to Europe. Saturation of the region's mobile telephony market is a major threat, but the rising popularity of mobile broadband may come to DIS's rescue. Mobile broadband refers to various types of internet access to portable devices, and 2008 saw the addition of nearly 11 million new connections in Europe. Given Diz's strength in data transmission, it should engage in product development and offer high-speed broadband via modems, thereby establishing itself as an integrated communication service provider. Moving on to Africa and Asia, there is a lot of scope for market penetration. In Africa, Dish should offer more value-added services using the superior technology of its data transmission as the key selling point. In Asia, a basic but quality service should be offered with a sharp eye on cost so that Dish can charge an affordable price without jeopardizing profits. Armed with these analyses, we can now assess and prioritize the issues facing Dish, and the company's first concern should be CAS. Because not only is CAS the backbone of Diz's billing system, but the problem has surfaced in Europe, the biggest market in terms of customer number and operating profit. Given highly price-elastic demand, customers being overcharged will not react kindly, and others may be offended by decline in call center service quality. Hence, resolving the error is necessary, and to allay the situation in the meantime, Dish can set up emergency hotlines at call centers and emergency desks in retail shops, create an interactive internet interface to handle complaints, or offer discounts like bonus talk time as compensation. The regulatory threat in E is the next most pressing issue because E promises to contribute about 40% of the revenues for Asia in each of the next 5 years and increasing proportions of net profit ranging to 10% in 2014. Also, Diz's ethical integrity is at stake since license violation may brand it as a footloose multinational which discriminates between service quality in different countries. Diz now has two options, either upgrade the transmitters or leave the market. Now, even if Diz leaves the market, it will have to repay the 12,000 million loan taken for the investment in E and the 2 fines. The resultant cash flows over 2010 to 18, assuming 6% financing cost and yearly repayment, are as follows. At a discount rate of 4.2%, which is the average return on 10-year government securities in 9 European countries, these cash flows have a present value of over 13,000 million, and to make exit worthwhile, Diz must sell its stake in E for at least this amount. Now, given E's prospects, this may not be too much of a problem, but the main problem is that the buyer may turn out to be a rival with an ability to launch competitive attacks. Thank you. Now, Raisa will continue.
Good morning. I will take you through the next 5 issues facing Diz. First comes the resignation of Africa's CEO, which is a major concern given the region's immense prospects and ever-changing dynamics. Now, the European CEO has experience as a regional head, but he clearly lacks adequate knowledge of the market and, more importantly, seems to undermine its potential. Considering this, a few possible replacements could be a senior executive from Asia, since both markets have many similar aspects, the next person in line within the African hierarchy, who would be well-versed with the pulse of the African customers, or a new externally recruited CEO who would have ample familiarity with the African market. The proposed marketing drive in Asia comes up as the 4th priority because of its many implications. Child safety is the primary concern for Asian and African parents, and the campaign may well benefit this by drawing in new subscribers. However, it is difficult to envision it as a success in Europe because of the region's contrasting socio-cultural scenario. More importantly, the conceptualization of the advertisement raises a major ethical concern. Prevention of child exploitation is a core element of Diz's CSR initiatives, and a campaign that manipulates parents into buying cell phones by intensifying their anxiety about their children stands out as a sharp contradiction to this philosophy. Implementation may thus expose Diz to a loss of goodwill and might create pressure from advertising regulators. The next proposal, suggesting a change in Diz's organizational structure, would declutter the organizational hierarchy and quicken decision-making because of reduced communication barriers. Also, it would result in greater empowerment of key functional employees, thus boosting their morale. However, it would also lead to a lack in coordination and a more departmentalized as opposed to an integrated strategic vision. It could also create conflicts of interest among different functional areas, and the CEOs may feel that the company has treated them unethically. If the proposal is enacted, the dismissed CEOs may be hired by rivals, which could jeopardize confidentiality for Diz. Next comes the issue of network security. Considering Diz's past resilience to fraudulent attacks, allocating further resources to preventive technology may not bring tangible benefits, and so the GOD's proposal can be considered economically sound. However, there is a hint of myopia in the proposal, as it seems to ignore the looming threats posed by network fraud, given the company's intended expansion in Africa and greater adoption of 3G handsets, which are more prone to hacker attacks. So, mere reactive measures may fail to ensure network security in the future. The next issue involving the use of a PRP scheme for all employees worldwide carries magnitude because of its association between employee compensation and morale. Should DIS accept the proposal, it stands to gain from a more productive workforce. On the flip side, the PRP scheme might create discontent and eventually lower productivity if DIS is unable to accurately tie in performance with pay. Thank you. Now Samira will continue.
Good morning. The shop-in-shop proposal involving the opening of 100 new retail shops in Europe may result in greater market presence and an enhanced image, but the project has several pitfalls. The project lease has no break clause, so DIS won't have the provision to walk away from this investment if unforeseen problems arise. In addition, low ARPU indicates that customers may be unlikely to pay a significant premium, and financial analysis reveals that the project breaks even at more than 62,000 customers per year, which far surpasses the forecasted 7,500. It may also strain DIS's relationship with its current suppliers. Now, based on their assessment of issues, these are the recommendations we offer. First, DIS must immediately correct the errors in CAS, and in the meantime, setting up emergency desk and hotline is most feasible to cope with the current situation because it can be implemented quickly and customers are likely to require a personal assurance. In the long run, DIS should focus on enhancing the capabilities of its IT division. A capable IT division can also be used to launch and manage the suggested mobile broadband services, transforming this division into a profit center and thereby generating greater value. For E, we recommend that DIS urgently carries out the required upgrades and does not leave the market. The upgrades can be done quite comfortably from DIS's large retained earnings. In fact, not upgrading would be unethical because DIS made a conscious commitment to meet license requirements, and stepping back now may also hinder any further expansion plans in Asia. As for the resignation of the African CEO, the most sustainable course of action is to hire a new CEO with a thorough understanding of the market. Appointing an executive from Asia, or even the next in line within the African hierarchy, is only a makeshift solution, and it undermines the importance of this post. Now, given Africa's thriving telecom industry, it shouldn't be difficult for DIS to find experts of the required caliber. But until the recruitment process is complete, the European CEO can oversee African operations at the decided interval, and in the long run, DIS should implement proper succession planning so that resignation of key people doesn't create gaping holes in the organization. As for the marketing campaign in Asia, it is unethical and it shouldn't be implemented. The advertisement should be reconceptualized to focus on assurance and not on anxiety. To this end, DIS can promote its CSR initiatives targeted at children, in parallel with the low cost of the package, to convey that DIS cares about child protection and so has launched a scheme that brings communication with children within the reach of every parent. If the redesign campaign is successful in Asia, it can be extended to Africa, given the two markets' similar dynamics. Thank you. Now, Tanisha will continue.
Moving on to the proposed reorganization, removing the CEO's post might create a crisis of leadership and will not be sensible. The real problem hidden behind the proposal appears to be insecurity and dissatisfaction among the functional heads, and the most necessary step is to reassure them about their importance and authority. Raising the proposal in the board meeting will only arouse the CEO's resentment and should be avoided. Next, implementing PRP individually with over 19,000 employees may be prohibitively difficult. This should instead apply PRP to larger units such as departments. For example, if the marketing department of a region achieves its target, the entire department will receive a bonus. This will yield a more driven workforce, but with much lower monitoring costs. Moving on, financial analysis de-glamorizes the shop-in-shop proposal, and its ability to extract more from Europe seems limited. This will benefit more by investing in more retail stores in Africa, where only a basic level of service is currently provided, and thereby better positioning itself to utilize the region's promise.